What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical. It's Tactical Tuesday, you could even say about that. We are a little bit late today. I apologize for that. It's been a hectic day. I've been working all day on a new video. We're doing an Arcs of Materialist for Tyranid units. The video ended up being 1 hour and 3 minutes long. So it took a little bit longer to edit than I expected, and it's running into some problems rendering. I was supposed to have it up this morning, and it's kind of having some trouble. So hopefully it will be up after this. So that'd be great. It's trying to export right now, but it's taking like ages. So, you know, it is what it is. That's why we're a little bit late, but we are here now. So let's talk about some lists from the past weekend. We had a bunch of events this past weekend, by the way. I think another one of the larger weekends of the season so far, Southampton GT, Rosehammer, and Rocky Mountain Open were all 100-plus player events. I think 200 players for Rocky Mountain and Southampton, if I remember correctly. And I think Rosehammer was 100, I believe. And then a bunch of other, like, big 5-rounders as well. So yeah, huge, at least for super major level, like major and super major level. We had a ton of events this weekend to talk about. And that's awesome. So let's get up in there. And yeah, talk about some freaking results. I guess we'll start at the top, right? We do have number 1 and number 2. I think this is pretty emblematic of the meta for Southampton GT. David Gaylord, Mr. True, was playing Astra Militarum versus Manny Chima in the finals, Dark Angels. And True was able to take that one down. I know that some Militarum players have said that that's a really bad matchup for Astra Militarum. I don't know if I entirely trust them, but clearly True was able to win it against Manny's Dark Angels. We can take a quick gander at what they have. I think it's mostly normal stuff. Yeah, it's a Born Soldiers detachment. There's a Acadian Command Squad with all the fixins, a Tank Commander, Lord Solar Leontis, 4 units of Shock Troopers, 3 Khazarkan squads, some Sentinels. The Sentinels are pretty spicy. I actually played this against the Sentinels over the weekend. I did play an RTT this weekend, but I don't know if I didn't prepare myself to talk about it. I did lose against Astra Militarum. I won all my other games, so I lost against Astra Militarum, so didn't win the tournament or anything. But I was sort of provided an experience of how good Sentinels are in the Militarum Codex. Turns out they have literally every available keyword that the faction requires to them, so they can receive every kind of order and get rerolls from Lord Solar. For 50 points a model, probably one of the best units in the game. No big deal. 3 units of mortars and 2 executioners is what this looks like. A little bit tough to parse, but yeah, it looks like 2 executioners and a chimera. The chimera puts the mechanized infantry Khazarkan unit inside it so that they don't get killed by indirect fire. So oftentimes what you'll do is it is a little interesting. I think the selection of picks we've taken here. Oftentimes what you'll do is you'll put 1 Khazarkan unit in strategic reserve if there's a chance your opponent can kill it. The other one will go into the Chimera, and then the Barbican's Key will usually stay on the table, and you'll hope to go first and then teleport it and just trade it for something. You can, if you want to, you can put all 3 on the table. They're just fine on the table. You don't get the Lord Solar rerolls on the one that's coming out of the Chimera, at least on the turn that it comes out, but at least it can't get alpha struck and it can sort of position really aggressively. And then one of them just stands behind a ruin for half the game and then gets rerolls in a late game turn and comes in and just does the Khazarkan combo again. Every time a Khazarkan unit shoots, it probably makes its points back 1 to 2 times over, as long as the entire combo has been assembled. Actually, probably 300 points. They kill about 300 points, I think, on average, almost every time I see them shoot. So the 3 Khazarkan units are sort of wildly efficient. I might make a video about all this stuff. I mean, I already talked about Khazarkan, I think, in my video back in January. It's wild that the combo hasn't been nerfed, but, you know, it is what it is. But the rest of the list is pretty standard. I think we're going to be seeing it quite a lot coming, moving on into the future of this season, because I do believe it's the strongest list in the game, like hands down, and I don't even think it's close. And I think if you're not prepared for it, then you're gonna get destroyed. So yeah, pretty good. Manny Chima over here is playing Deathwing stuff Yeah, this is a Dark Angels list. There's 2 Talon Masters. It does have Lazarus, which I appreciate. Lazarus is kind of an important include. That's one thing that I think, like, a lot of players are including Azrael right now for the CP regeneration, or the CP bonus he gives you. If Azrael is your Warlord, you get 2 additional CP for free. The downside is that he takes your Warlord slot, so he takes your Warlord trait, Stratagem. You can't use that anywhere else. His Warlord trait's not very good for the army. And it requires you to heroic support if you want a second captain. So if you want Samael or you want Lazarus, then you have to spend an extra CP. So he doesn't actually... He gives you CP only if you're not using all of your Warlord trait slots, basically. If you are, then he actually ends up costing you CP. And it looks like we are using basically most of the slots. We've got Steadfast Example, so the extra OBSEC Aura on the Blade Guard Ancient, and Rites of War on the Talon Master. No Selfless Healer on the Apothecary. I guess he left that at home. But that does save the CP to regenerate Deathwing Terminators the slow way. But we are buying the Reliquary of the Repentant to nerf invuln saves around that guy. Yeah, I don't know. This is more normal Dark Angels things. So I think we're probably we're kind of hurtling towards a meta where most of these finals matches are most likely going to be Astra Militarum versus Dark Angels. I don't think it's entirely caught on yet, but those are like kind of far and away, I think, the most powerful armies in the game. So anyway, good stuff. Sentinels are so undercost. You also run 9, yeah. I think we talked about a list a while ago that ran 18. It was 9 of every single one. Probably a good indicator that maybe you should bump the points of those things. They're like for sure worth like 70 points. And they cost 50. But you know, it is what it is. We do have some World Eaters coming in third here. A nice Invocatus list. Ooh, look at all these Berserkers. Just doing regular Berserkers today. 6 units. 2 Chaos Rhinos. So 2 are ground pounding. And then 2 get to be in the Rhinos, because each Rhino can hold 2. And I think the Berserkers, honestly, so, mea culpa. I haven't actually played the World Eaters matchup yet. I'm trying to line one up so I can experience the excitement for myself. But the Berserkers, I'm much more afraid of the Berserkers than I am the 8-bound. Because the 8-bound, I think, have to play so straightforward. They just, like, have a straight-up fight with you, right? Where the 8-bound just, like, run across the table and punch you. Or they punch you and you can try to screen them and they kill something stupid and then they, like, you shoot them to death or something. The Berserkers are the follow-up punch. So the 8-bound pull all your focus. And then the Berserkers disembark Rhinos and charge you. And that's the part I'm really afraid of. Melee units and dedicated transports we've seen over and over and over again are incredibly strong. This archetype of putting transports in the middle of the table and then disembarking units and charging with them has literally since the beginning of the edition has been strong. Like, we had Impulsor Rushes at the beginning of 9th edition. Drukhari came out, and that was their entire archetype. We've seen it with Death Guard. We've seen it with Grey Knights. We've seen it with, like, every faction that's been at the top of the game has used... I mean, right now it's Orcs doing it. Has used transports with these embarked melee units. And I don't see that going away anytime soon. So those things, you know... It's that meme where, like, that thing, it terrifies me. I'm scared of Berserkers. They can also fight on death as well, which is, even scarier. So if your game plan is killing the transport with shooting and then charging the guys inside, that isn't even that good for you, because they'll just mutually annihilate, get 1 billion blood tithe points, and then spend them to get secondary objective points. So it just seems like a lose-lose situation for you. Pretty solid stuff. Good stuff from old World Eaters. World Eaters putting up some really good results. It looks like they may be a little overtuned right now. I think the problem is for World Eaters is that, at least from what I've been hearing from people talking, is that the secondary objectives are too strong for them, most likely. They're very aggressive, so oftentimes their primary objective score is really good. But their army dies. They trade their army for victory points, which is fair. But those victory points are, like, slightly too easy to score. So you can't, like, table them before they max all their points, and then at that point you literally can't win. So it could be that we see a nerf to their secondary objectives. But otherwise, it seems like World Eaters are kind of in an interesting place. I'm a little worried that they get a little first turny because of the pregame move, but I don't. And also, transports being strong when you go first, just in general, means that they're really incentivized to take the first turn, but... we'll have to see. I think it's a little early days. Yeah, the metal boxes. Fucini over here has fallen to the dark side, playing Astra Militarum. I'm very disappointed in him. And I do want to throw a shout out as well to this GT. This GT ran 8 rounds. Or excuse me, 7 rounds, I believe. It ran... What was it? Was it 7 or 8? I'm sure someone in chat's about to correct me. Now I kind of want to know. It importantly did not run enough rounds to make a clean cut to top 4. So what ended up happening here was that Mark Vickery playing Azuriani and Fushini both went 5-0. It must have been 7 because they went 5-0. Yeah, it was for sure 7. Then they that point after 5 games they cut to top 4. So if your tiebreakers weren't good enough, despite the fact that you won all your games, you could not win the event, which is just not great, in my opinion. Maybe we fit another game in there somewhere. We can probably find a way to squeeze one more in a 3-day event, and then we don't get undefeated players who are not eligible for top cuts. Yeah, just not a great situation. I think there's also maybe some drama. Fushini's final round opponent apparently clocked out, and kind of that tanked his score, I guess, because the game had to wrap up earlier than was intended. And it was kind of all dramatic and stuff. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe if we're doing a top cut, we played undefeated. That's just my opinion about that. It is what it is. I think that the big problem is that, like, it's the tiebreakers in general as well, because your tiebreakers determine whether or not you get in, and most of the time they're not really in your control. Score, like victory points is one thing, but that usually means that you're incentivized to seal club people or to, like, I don't know, to just play super aggressively and try to score as highly as you can, and that's not great usually. If it's opponent win percentage, strength of schedule, then you have literally no control. It just depends on who you get paired against. And if you get paired against somebody round 1 who's a salty butthole like me and just drops, then you're tanked. You can never make it to the top 4, and that's just crappy. So I think discussions about tiebreakers are always interesting, because I think there's no perfect tiebreaker system, but 99% of the time it doesn't really matter, besides like ITC scoring, and then situations like this where there are undefeated players whose placement is determined by tiebreakers, and that's, you know, I don't know, not a great situation. But it's probably something to do with restrictions of the venue or something like that. It's an unfortunate situation, I think. I don't believe, I think that, just to be clear, from what I understand, the tiebreaker for the top cut was opponent's win percentage. So I don't think it was victory points. But I think that because you only play 5 games before the top cut, you actually don't get very much striation in that as a tiebreaker. And so I think it ended up, for Fushini, if I remember correctly, it did end up being battle points, because that was the next level of tiebreaker. But the first one, they try to avoid it by making opponent's win percentage, which theoretically is supposed to get higher as you go up the ranks. But again, if you play against people in the first, like, 1 to 2 rounds that go like 0 and 5 or whatever, then your strength of schedule gets tanked, and there's no way you had any control over that, which is just unfortunate. So yeah. That's what happened over there. We'll skip Fushini's list because it's boring Astra Militarum. We do have some Azuriani. This is, a custom sub-faction. So this is Mark Vickery, who is also 5-0. Custom sub-faction I don't recognize. Exciting new territory. Yes! Let's go. Masterful shots, so we're ignoring cover, and Savage Blades. What is that? That's so exciting. Savage Blades is +1 AP on the first round of combat. So that's not to be confused with, what is it? Children of Cain? Oh yeah, that's +1 damage. So they don't have a rending effect, but they do have exploding 6s to hit and exploding and additional damage on 6s to wound, and then apparently also just a built-in +1 AP. That one's spicy. That's cool. So, we have a big Skyrunner Council, or just a regular Warlock Council. So, trying to bodyguard for Farseers here. 4 Warlocks. Behareth, Janezar, and Karandros. Oh, damn, dude. A Farseer with the Phoenix Gem. Not a Skyrunner. He's on foot. Wow, okay. Literally no Skyrunner Psychers. They're all on foot. 2 units of Rangers, 2 units of Howling Banshees, 2 units of Striking Scorpions. We got to keep the... We got to complete the theme, right? We got Janzar and we got Karandra, so we got to get the double Striking Scorpions and the double Howling Banshees. They're little retinues to go with them. Oh, here's the Warlock Skyrunner. Just kidding. All right, we do have one. Oh, and with Sunstorm. Sorry, I didn't miss what the relic was that they paid for. So it makes him objective secured. It's really good for bottom round 5 scoring. You can just run and steal an objective from people. Another unit of 2 Warlocks, Swooping Hawks as well with the Phoenix Plume. Again, we're forging a narrative here. All the Phoenix Lords are bringing their Aspect Warriors. Adorable. A Viper unit, a Wave Serpent, and 3 support weapon platforms. 1 unit of 3 Doom Cannons, D Cannons, Doom Cannons, D Cannons, and 2 Shadow Weavers, a unit of 2 and a Singleton. So the Shadow Weavers, I imagine, are a concession to the Master Militarum matchup, where you're going to take Masterful Shot, so they can hide. You know, they have a line of sight blocking terrain, maybe a piece of area terrain, or an obstacle, and they're in cover. They're putting like Kazarkin teams behind that cover. You have Masterful Shots to ignore cover. You still have to worry about the indirect fire penalty a little bit because they go to +1 save. But you have rending on those, I believe. I actually don't know if I've seen a Shadow Weaver since... Oh, no, excuse me. They are just AP2. So you ignoring cover and AP2, you'd send them to a 5-up save. And they're D6 shot blast, so into a 10-man unit, you're most likely getting probably 11 or 12 shots. So the 3 D-Can support weapons can probably neuter... It's unlikely that they kill a Kazarkin team because you can transhuman them. So you can keep the Barbican's Key team alive, excuse me. But you do kill enough of them that their Alpha Strike is significantly depowered. And they also have to be a little bit worried because they can't necessarily run into your screens. If you have a Farseer that's aggressively positioned with the Warlocks hiding, the Farseer can trigger Forewarned on anything that comes in within 18 of you. Now, obviously, they are a ranged teleporter, so they don't have to be close to you to get the full effect. But if they're too far away, they don't get to rapid fire their volley guns, and that does decrease their damage output significantly. So I imagine that this list, there's a lot of this list that's here to attack against Astra Militarum. And if I had to pick out one faction that may be well suited to fight against Astra Militarum, I think it is specifically Eldari. Iron Hands also allegedly is pretty good because they have the new Desolator Squads. They can fire their shots indirect and basically do the same thing. And they're a little bit more resilient to mortar teams. Mortar teams really wreck Eldar, unfortunately. But, I mean, less so on the support weapon platforms because they're high toughness value. Speaking of Iron Hands, we can take a look. Looks like it's kind of normal Iron Hands stuff. We have a Primaris Tech Marine with target protocols, a Lieutenant with Rights of War. This one has got a Vanguard Veteran Squad, though, and they are running Whirlwind of Rage, so they have Exploding Sixes to hit. This is, we call this the Fushini Slash, because Fushini came up with it. As far as I know. He was the first person I saw to play the combo. But because you can use Whirlwind of Rage to explode your hit rolls, they then become wound rolls, and you can use Mercy as weakness to then explode your wound rolls as well. So you're exploding extra hits that then turn into wounds that can then explode to extra wounds, all of which are re-rolling thanks to the Lightning Claw. So you actually end up getting like dramatically more damage than you came in with attacks. So it's a good example of how Ultra Strong Cleaning Agents of the Imperium is the name of the list. That's solid. It's a good example of how Iron Hands buff both ranged and melee attacks. They're good in both phases. We've got the Relic Contemptor, 2 units of 5 scouts with a bunch of upgrades, 2 Landspeeder Storms to put the scouts in, 3 Landspeeder Tornadoes, 2 units of 5 Devastators with a mix of multi-volatiles and grav cannons. They go in a drop pod, and then 2 Eradicator Squads, 3 of Peace, and a Reaper. Good stuff. Website, either exclamation point lists chat or website is in the video description. All right, there's some Blood Angels here as well. Blood Angels doing pretty well. That's nice to see. I wonder where Blood Angels sit on the stat check right now, because I know at the beginning of the season they were really having some problems. Fortunately, I can't get to it. All right, I don't know. I'm not gonna look it up right now. They were having really the loss of Armor of Contempt and the like increase of power level of other Space Marine chapters really made it tough for Blood Angels. They lost a point of AP, and then like sort of mid to high AP became really meta because everyone was playing Space Marines, so everyone was counterattacking Space Marines. And then on top of that, they also lost their best secondary, or like their better access to secondary objectives, which was the other benefit that Blood Angels had. And that was sad for them, but look, they are still creeping up. I mean, we got Sam Procopio over in Canada just winning everything constantly. Like, the man can't be stopped. And clearly we have an X and 1 here, John Burgess. With double Death Company, triple Sanguinary Guard, an Ancient. Ooh, a big Scout Squad. Look at that. 8 Scouts. I think it's because we're out of, we're out of elite slots to take multiple units. 1 Landspeeder Storm, and then one's just going to ground pound. That's pretty solid. The Landspeeder Storm, I mean, is super sick in Blood Angels because you get Relentless Assault with it. But having the other Scout Squad just as a cheap forward deployer is pretty decent. And then a Whirlwind for the fight last as well. I like that. I actually really like the flex into Scouts for Blood Angels. You can even take melee Scouts, and everyone's on sniper rifles right now just to like force characters to hide and be like pretty good at shooting. But the melee Scouts and Blood Angels are actually kind of sick because they get the +1 attack, they get the +1 to wound once they get to Assault Doctrine, and if you're just using them as utility units, like they just fight real hard. Like, if somebody's coming in around your backline to take your home objectives, those guys will just kill them. They will kill basically any other trash utility unit in the game. So if you've got like 10 idiot guardsmen running to an objective, you don't have to like worry about that. The Scouts will just kill them. Which I don't dislike. I actually think that's pretty solid. But I do think, we're probably in a situation where we're going to see a lot of low wound characters in the game. So having like 9 sniper rifles in your list is never a bad thing. That's what happens anytime Astra Militarum is good. Snipers become extremely powerful. Yeah, no Fury of the Lost is real sad, for sure. All right. We have a lot of Space Wolves this weekend, and I think what I think what I may do is, because we do have like multiple Space Wolves, we have an X1 Space Wolf, an undefeated Space Wolf, another undefeated Space Wolf. I may just go ahead and do a big video about Space Wolves. We'll take a quick gander at these videos. This one's running all the las cannons, double Skyclaw, triple Wolf and triple Wolf Guard. With jump packs, and then triple long fangs with a mix of missile launchers, las cannons, and grav cannons. Missile launchers! Whoa! Alright, fair enough. This one is a little bit different. Triple Wolf Guard, triple Wolfen, triple Skyclaw, and Gilliman. I really like this include. Making use of the G-Man to buff non-chapter units is like pretty sweet. So he also affects the Wolfen because he doesn't care about all he cares about is Imperium units. He doesn't care about your keywords. So the fact that Wolfen aren't core and don't usually get any buffs doesn't really matter for them. So he gives them +1 to advance, +1 to charge, reroll ones to hit, and then they obviously get exploding 6s all the time, and Tesla their 6s because they're playing Whirlwind of Rage. So any rerolls you can get on them is like hugely powerful. So that is a sick list. And then this one is not Space Wolves. Just kidding. What the fuck is that? Did they put Space Wolves on their list? I wonder if I can find that real quick. List search. Oh, it's taking a while to load. I wonder if that was a mistake there. All right, we got some Custodes here, chat. From Rosehammer, X and 1. Mr. Steve Trimble. This is a solar watch list. So fall back in charge and we can CP to advance in charge. Solid. And it is the double wardens list. So Yeah, again, we see the Witch Seekers, but we don't have that combo with the Rhino again, chat. I know we spent a long time talking about that, but that is not present here. So the Witch Seekers are mostly there for utility, and we're going to be using our Advance and Charge and the Wardens to just run them up the table. Interesting to see the 20 Wardens do well again. And I know a lot of... This list is so controversial because there's a lot of people who really, really don't like this style of list. It's also 6 Venatari. Jesus. Okay. I guess, I mean, this one Kinetic Destroyer Tarsus Buckler guy to keep the unit alive, and then the rest is Venatari Lances. So that unit's pretty solid. But I think the big benefit of Venatari is that they're kind of like... They're like trading units. You don't necessarily have to dedicate a huge squad of them. So a 300-point squad of Venatari is interesting to see. But maybe that's just the gimmick. Maybe we're all in on keeping everybody in a Vexilla Magnifica for the -1 to be hit and making like huge bricks of unkillable infantry. And if the Venatari go in before the Wardens, like they do threat significantly longer, so they might just be the alpha strike. And if your opponent has to blow their load killing Venatari, then you feel pretty good about that because you have 20 dudes who can't die then. Wild. Absolutely wild list. Some Sororitas at X1. This is just Bloody Rose stuff. I feel bad for Sororitas because they are a little, like, I don't know what the right word is. Like, I don't want to say like hounded. Like they're a little sad right now, I guess. And I want to talk about them, but every Sisters list is identical, which is, man, the design of the Sisters faction just sucks. Like, turns out faction supplements that benefit a single sub-faction just make every list into that sub-faction. We saw the same thing when like Crusher Stampede Leviathan supplement came out for Tyranids. Just every list turned into a Leviathan Crusher Stampede list. And it was like, why'd you do that? Just make those available to, like, you know, more sub-factions. Why are, like, you drilling every ability into one sub-faction? Or, like, release a supplement that has rules for every sub-faction. So suddenly there's, like, more flexibility. It's the fact that it's all in one sub-faction is very stupid, in my opinion. Which is too bad. But, you know, congratulations on X and Wanding with the top 8 with Sisters. Because I know they're struggling a little bit. Ryan Sherwich. This is Orcspit from the Discord, I believe. And he was a big Death Guard player back in the day, but I think he's a member of the community of like just sort of chaos enthusiasts, Chad chaos enjoyers, who just pick a chaos subfaction and then just flip between them. Whatever chaos subfaction's good, they will play that. I know there's a bunch of people who do that. And that is kind of a cool thing about the chaos super faction is that because you're almost just playing like, they're almost all just sub-factions of one, like, enormous, huge conglomerate. And that means that flipping between them is actually pretty easy. Because there's so much overlap, like, the Demons get played with Chaos Space Marines a lot because they can ally. The Chaos Space Marines get played with the unique, like, cult codexes because they have overlap, like, tons of overlapping units. So it is kind of just, like, one big faction. Unlike Imperium, where you have, like, the Space Marines go in the Space Marine hole and the Sisters go into the Sisters drawer. Chaos, you can just kind of play any of the units in any of the Chaos sub-factions, just jam them together. So I don't know, that's pretty fun. This is an Invocatus list. We got 4 units of Berserkers, 3 8-bound, 3 Exalted 8-bound, 2 Chaos Rhinos, and Executioner Squadron. Zinch! Get out of here! What are you doing? That guy's sweet. So he's the CP regen guy. For the war dice. He also gives you a gun, which is, I will say, I think a weakness of many of the, there's rapier carriers in this list too. Oh, sick. No, this list is actually very cool. Yeah, so the rapier carriers give you 4 heavy bolters for 75 points. And so the one weakness I've seen of a lot of these World Eaters lists that are just like, all right, slam 8 8-bound, slam 4 to 6 Berserker units, slam a bunch of characters, let's go. Is that your opponent just gets to play in the Sprinkler. They do whatever they want. They can like sort of bubble wrap you, they can move block you, they can screen you, and there's nothing you can do about it. If they put a unit in front of your unit that's going to charge, your unit that's going to charge is going to charge the unit in front of them, and that's it. That's all you can do. And having 8 heavy bolters and a War Dog Executioner means you can clear screens really easily. Your opponent doesn't get to just like stand out in the open and you let like you can't shoot them. You'll kill 10 idiot infantry every turn easily, and even something heavier with the War Dog Executioner. So yeah, this list actually feels very well balanced. I really like this. Also, these smaller unit of 8-bound feel a little bit better to me. I think you make it so that there's no way to like really efficiently convert. I've seen some lists with like 5 these big bricks of like 5 8-bound, and you just get shot by like a set of 3 damage attacks, and the unit just vaporizes, and you've lost a pretty significant chunk. But like dropping it down to these little 3-man squads, feels like it helps as well. I actually really like this list, chat. That is some technology in the World Eaters community. I appreciate that. If World Eaters keep coming out with technology like this, man, this faction's gonna go far. If they're like, oh, it's whatever, I don't care that maybe my pregame move or my secondaries are less good. If I can just like find weird guns to take and play like suddenly an entirely different variety of World Eaters, that would be sweet. Is there a unit with a gun that you can pregame move with Votan? Probably not, right? I doubt it. Maybe like Terminators? Do they have guns in World Eaters? 3 Rapiers in your Imperial Fists? Oh, that is a good unit for Imperial Fists, actually. Is that the most efficient bolt gun carrier? Like heavy bolter carrier you can have now? Probably, right? I played against Rapier carriers in Black Legion, I think, one time, and I was impressed by them. And it's interesting that we haven't seen them more often. How bad are Imperial Knights? I don't think they're bad. I think they're right in the middle. Kind of where Imperial Knights always should be. I made the bold statement that I thought Imperial Knights were going to be really good this season, and they ended up just being, like, kind of fine. We haven't seen them at the tops too much. I think because Militarum just kills them. Like, the factions that are at the top right now, like, don't even care about Imperial Knights at all. World Eaters, I might give World Eaters a little bit of a run for their money. But, like, Dark Angels just, like, laugh at them. Astra Militarum laughs at them. And, like, I think Space Marines even probably have a pretty advantaged matchup. And that's just unfortunate. It's just, like, too bad that the types of lists that beat Imperial Knights are really strong right now. But if we see some nerfs to that stuff, I think we could see Imperial Knights make a comeback. I wonder how that World Eaters matchup goes. Because if you play Strike and Shield, you could actually just blank a lot of their stuff. Might be okay. I don't know. Strike and Shield's really strong so against a melee army with limited rerolls, so I bet it's probably fine. We also have a Heretic Astartes here. Top 8. Jason Ryder. What are you playing there, my guy? Black Legion. Sick. We got an Abaddon. A Dark Apostle. Master of Possession. Normal stuff. Veil Breaker Plate Sorcerer. So that's the Veil of Darkness. 3 units of Legionaries, 2 units of Chaos Bikers, and a Greater Brass Scorpion. Oh wait, have we seen this list before? We've looked at this list before, right? The Brass Scorpion list. Well, let me find you, Jason Ryder. Have you done this more than once? What? What do you mean no results? Does it not search the top? All right, we can just do a find. February? Is this the one? 4-1. Greater Brass Scorpion! It is! He's back! Jason Ryder, you are an absolute hero. Harbor Heresy. Chinese Legionaries, Garrus Terminators. Alright, this one's more normal. This was pre-Arcs of Bowman though, right? Yeah, this is in September. What an absolute Chad over here, chat. He's... So, the Chaos Bikers in Black Legion are really cool. Because you can... one of them is Mark of Slanesh. So we have a Black Rite of Damnation on the Mark of Zinj squad with a Chaos Icon. So they get +1 AP on their guns, and then they can blank the first failed saving throw. So you have to sequence your attacks against them really well. Then they're Black Runes, so the sequencing's hard because low strength stuff, which is what you want to shoot at them first, doesn't usually do anything because it wounds on 6s. You have to be like high strength, and then the Mark of Zinj blanks one of them, and you feel really bad about it. The other one's Mark of Slanesh, so you can do the Delightful Agonies on it. And if we have Mark of Slanesh on the Dark Apostle, we don't. That's sad. If we have Mark of Slanesh on the Dark Apostle, you can give them advance and charge for a turn, so they can move 20 and then charge. And then if you do that, and then if you use the stratagem, what is it? Convergence of Traders, to turn the other biker unit into red Corsairs, you can advance and charge with both of them. And then they go for days. They get a bunch of each one of them has like multiple bolters. You get combi bolters on the bike, and then bolt guns on the guys with combi weapons, and then also a bunch of melta guns. It's just like a sweet unit. I think the one without Black Rune's a little easy to kill, but that's why it has Delightful Agonies. Delightful Agonies is really good on 3 wound models. 2 is a lot. But I think the big benefit is that they can keep threats off of the Brass Scorpion, and they can hope that the Brass Scorpion kind of just does its thing. I wonder if Brass Scorpions would be good with Vashtor. It sounds like early opinions are coming in that Vashtor is really terrible, but his Army of Renan's actually sick. So maybe Vashtor is just a tax you pay to play the Army of Renan. I don't know. All right, this is in September. This is old stuff. We got to go back to the top.
What's the happy amount of Hearthguards to run? 5,7,10?
5,7, Maddox, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate you. I think honestly, I'm probably on 5. 5 makes it so that it's not a huge investment. The big squads, you're playing like 300 plus points for them. And at that point, if that unit doesn't convert, you probably lose the game. 5 is only you're only 250, 240, which is still a lot. But what it does is it forces your opponent to screen really, really heavily. And any army that either has really long melee threat ranges or has really solid melee ranged attacks wants your opponent to screen as heavily as they can, because your opponent's incentivized to hide everything out of line of sight every turn. And Votan turns on so hard as soon as somebody is in line of sight. So if you're oh, I got Warp Strike, it's on 5 guys, but they're next to Uthar, they can get full rerolls, you gotta watch out. And your opponent's gonna be oh, okay, cool. And then they'll run 20 guardsmen out to screen out your Warp Strike, and then you just get to pick up 20 guardsmen every turn. So I think 5. That's my opinion. I think that the other way to go is a 10er, but it's so hard to fit 10 in there. And then that one's just I'm gonna kill something. I don't know. But I think, in my opinion, it's 5. I'm sure someone who's very, very practiced with Leagues of Votan will tell you, otherwise one way or another. But playing against the Warp Strike unit, 5 has been enough to kill something important and to really force me to play differently against it. But it doesn't feel as all in as an 8 or 10 or something does. So that's what I have to say about that. Okay. Where were we at? We had just talked about a Brass Scorpion. Jason Ryder, you handsome devil, you, with your super cool Brass Scorpion, my guy. What an absolute Chad. All right, let's move on. Frontline Gaming Rocky Mountain Open. This one was streamed by War Games Live, I believe, so you can go check out the VODs over on their website or over on their YouTube channel. Go give Joe a subscribe over there if you haven't already, because it's the best 40k content in the world. Full stop. It's even better than mine somehow, which is so shocking. Mine's so high production quality. All right, we got some orcs. Before we dive into this orcs, should we take bets on how many kill rigs there are? I'm gonna say 2. There's Burna Boys, Storm Boys, Warbikers. Oh, just a battle wagon. Oh my gosh, amazing! I have been shown up. Michael, man, you got me. So it's a Naman Smash the Squig. It's got Gazi Thraka in it. Absolute Chad over here. Zagstruck, a Warbike Warboss, a Weird Boy, Triple Gretchen. One has horrible Gits in it. So not even running Truck Boys. Whoa! A regular unit of boys, a bunch of Burna Boys. So they probably go in the battle wagon because they can they shoot out the top with the hard case? Man, Orc players, you just gotta stop playing battle wagons, or just don't put any upgrades on them, because every time you play one, I have to look up exactly what it does, because the upgrades change like every rule on the data sheet. So the hard case loses open topped, but goes up to toughness 8. So you cannot shoot out of it with the Burna Boys, which is actually really sad. That's an unfortunate change. I guess it's fine. I mean, it's like kind of important against multi-guns and stuff, but I would like to burn people out of it. But I guess you could just disembark. It's probably okay. 3 units of 10 Storm Boys, hot damn, and 2 units of Warbikers. So instead of using the Truck Boys, we're just going to be using high base movement guys. And I bet this army... I actually really like this army, chat, because one thing I complain about orcs, and especially the kill rig builds, is that orcs are like go firsty to the... Or at least those armies are like... They're like all in on going first. They're like, I'm going to deploy 2 to 3 kill rigs on the line. I'm going to go first. I'm going to advance them halfway over the midline of the table, and then I'm going to hit the clock and say go. And you either kill them and everything inside, or you lose. And it's such a stat check. If your opponent goes first and has reasonable shooting, they just kill both kill rigs. And then your guys are out on the ground. You're not in threat range until round 2, so your opponent gets another round of shooting at all your idiots who are on the ground. And you just die. But if you go first, you automatically win. This list feels much more reasonable. So there's only one transport. It doesn't really have to like run up really, really aggressively. Because your stuff threats so far, the Warbikers threat like 20 plus the charge, I believe. The Storm Boys threat 18. You can threaten across the midline of the table without needing to break cover. So because you have a high base speed on everything, you can still threaten your opponent, and there's not really much they can do about it. Stormers are 11 points a model. That's so cheap. Oh my god. I knew that unit was good. I didn't know that was that good. So you don't have to play quite as aggressively. I love this list, chat. Plus, you have Gaskell Thraka to like late game for you. So you don't. A lot of times, like orc lists, they'll be like spent by turn 3. They'll be like, I run to the middle, you shoot me, I charge your whole army. Hopefully I've won and gotten enough of a primary lead, because otherwise I lose the game because you kill my whole army. But in this list, you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna stand there for a turn. If you don't give me anything to charge, like I'm gonna win on secondaries because I have get the good bits, and upset Gretchen, and so you probably have to move to the middle to force primary, and then I wah, and my entire army charges you from my deployment zone. And then you get into a big fight in like rounds 2 and 3, and then Gaskell Thraka just like rounds 4 or 5 just late games the crap out of the opponent's army. Usually, if you haven't done any damage to Gaskell Thraka by like round 4, then he's unkillable. He can't die. Sweet. This is I like seeing a different orc list, chat. It's still Goffs, and it's still most of the Goff like all stars, but man, is it refreshing not to see like 3 kill rigs? Good stuff, orcs. I love you. Oh, the finals was good, chat. I did not. I only watched a little bit of it. I didn't watch most of it, unfortunately, so I missed the finals. But that's sweet. Congratulations to Gaskell Thraka for taking that one down. Scout Rumple, we just took a look at his list. This is the one that has a bunch of multi-guns in it, so that's cool. Well, I'll probably do a video on those lists later. We got some Tau Empire here. Ooh, Advanced EM Scrambler Recruit Shaper. I love this little guy. Just sits in the back and says, please don't deep strike on me. So if we play. So Cold Star Commander, Ethereal, Long Strike. 2 units of strike teams, not breachers. strike teams are actually really good. I think strike teams are criminally underrated. You can pump. They're kind of like Necron warriors in that they're sort of unassuming when you look at your data sheet. You're like, okay, they have like a rapid fire gun. It's like pretty good. They're like strength 5 AP 1. It's like, that's all right. But then once you start pumping all of the abilities on them and you fill them full of command points, they actually become sort of insane. They get like exploding 6s, 6s auto wound. They have like easy access to rerolls. Most of the offensive buffs can go onto them, and so they end up actually shooting way above their weight class. I lost Swarmlord to a strike team at one point in a tournament, and I was like, "What the fuck? What is this unit? What is it shooting me so much for?" I think strike team, and plus they have a long range gun, so unlike the breachers like have to come off the table edge basically. The strike teams can just sit on your side of the table and just like take pot shots at enemy like chaff infantry. A ghost kill battlesuit, stealth battlesuit, some crude hounds, a pathfinder team, and 2 piranhas. That's cool. Piranhas are interesting. They don't do much damage. They just have they have the gun drones, the burst cannons. It's a high volume, but not high damage. But one of them has a fusion blaster. But they are really fast, and they're good at move blocking. And they actually kind of become difficult to kill if you disembark the drones, because they end up like the amount of table space that a single piranha for 60 points occupies is really large, because the piranha itself is physically a large vehicle. And then you also put a unit of 2 drones next to it. And if you need to like screen, piranhas are great at it. A Riptide, a Sun Shark, and a Devilfish. Oh, and a Tidewall gunring. Hold up, what? I guess that's why we have strike teams. Oh, wait, what the fuck? This went a direction. So this isn't the shield wall. It has a rail gun on it, which is basically just the broadside battlesuit rail gun. It's like a little bit better. It's a D3 plus 2 damage rail gun. It does D3 mortal wounds on top. With a 4 plus ballistic skill, which is fine. So it's like pretty solid shooting, I guess. Especially if you have marker light support. I don't know if we have any marker lights in this list. We have the Sun Shark Bomber. That doesn't do anything on the first turn, though. Is it like literally just the Sun Shark Bomber? Who needs marker lights, chat? Oh, there's a Pathfinder team. Just kidding. That's where the Devilfish is for. Yeah. So we have the interesting thing with the Devilfish and the Pathfinder team is you can play the Devilfish aggressively. So you can like push it forward. You can do the pregame move on it. Disembark a strike team, like steal an objective, do an airspace attack and relay, shoot somebody, all that stuff. And then the Pathfinders do their shoot and scoot. So I think it's aggressive recon or I forget what it is. It's a stratagem, anyway. At the start of the shooting phase, they shoot all their marker lights, and then they get to move. And because they make a normal move, at the end of their move, they can embark onto the Devilfish. So you can, if you push the Devilfish up to like a really central location, they can move out, shoot something with marker lights, move back into the Devilfish, and then you can place the Devilfish. If you're smart at playing transports, which most of these players are, you can place the Devilfish in such a way that when it dies, the Pathfinder team then disembarks out of line of sight. So you basically are guaranteed at least 2 activations of the Pathfinder team. So all right, so you can set this thing up to receive marker lights. So it hits on 3s, which is pretty good. Pretty good value for 125 points. Is it better than just a broadside though? How much is a broadside battlesuit? 85. Oh, and you have to embark onto it, otherwise it reduces its own ballistic skill. Oh no! Yeah, this Tidewall gun rig is a meme. Take a quick look at this guy over here. Here he is. So it stays still. It's 16 wounds. That's actually kind of tough to kill. I don't believe it has an invulnerable save. The shield wall does, but I don't think this one does. You can shoot off of it. So the second strike team most likely sits in this thing and just gets to shoot. And then I guess you get, like, you're gonna get the enhanced railgun ballistic skill anyway. So it's not that big of a downside that you only get a 5+. So I guess it's like a broadside. Its gun's a little bit better, but it doesn't have any secondary guns. But on the flip side, it also lets you, like, it allows you to shoot with a strike team every turn, I guess. And that seems fine. It does turn into difficult ground when it dies. That's interesting. Oh, Tidewall gun ring. Recon Sweep is the name. I should remember that because that's the name of a mechanic in Breachstorm. That's a mission in Breachstorm, the Recon Sweep. And that's like, Recon Sweep is just a cool word. What a cool phrase. Yeah, maybe he wanted to like burn his opponent's clock looking up what his unit did. I don't know. For 125 points, the gun is fine. It's like I would say the gun is above average for 125 points. It's probably, if you're taking the strike teams, I totally understand the combo. Like, it just makes sense. I get it. Oh, there's also a Breacher team. So we can put the Breacher in the Devilfish, run the Devilfish forward, and then embark the Pathfinders onto it later. I don't know. That's it. I like this list. This list is very technical. That's very cool. Chaos Demons. Ooh, spicy Chaos Demons. We got Kairos. Kairos Fate Weaver. What do you think? What spells do you think he gave Kairos, chat? He didn't put the spells on here. What could they be? So it's a King of Blades, Devastating Blow, so no damage ignores. And Indomitable Onslaught. Bloodthirster as the Warlord. Torment Bringer on Hellflare with the Slothful Claws. I've been seeing this character a lot. She is very popular right now. And then Kairos Fate Weaver for the sweet, sweet casting. The casts of many a power. Double Bloodletter, double Demonette, 2 units of 5 Flamers, 2 units of 5 Fleshhounds, and a Wardog Executioner Squadron. Oh, excuse me. Ooh. Double Executioners with Worthy Offering, so +1 to hit against monsters, vehicles, and characters. Certainly gives the Chaos Demons a lot more range firepower, which they've definitely been lacking. I like this list. I think I'm definitely biased towards Kairos Fate Weaver. So that guy's sweet. Oh, this is a spicy list right here. So this is a pure Tzeentch list. Whoa, this is crazy. Zach Kerstetter. I think we've seen Zach do pretty well in the past. That is a familiar name to me. 2 Demon Princes. One of them has the Warp Fire Blade. The other one has the Impossible Robe. Oh yeah, because we have the relic thing. So the Warp Fire Blade. I don't know if I've ever seen a Tzeentch Demon Prince on the table. So that's one I'll have to look up. That does give you some actual melee output in a Tzeentch list, which is the real downside of Tzeentch is that your guns are like super good. Better than a lot of gun lines. In fact, you probably win the gun line matchup into other armies that are trying to play gun lines. Like, you're probably wildly advantaged because Tzeentch is so difficult to shoot at. But the problem is once you get stuck in with them, they're like, oh, I'll punch you with my Lord of Change. I'll do my Warp Storm ability to do mortal wounds on 6s with my, like, 1 attack, like, horrors or whatever. It's not that great. Relics of Tzeentch. So the Warfire Blade is +1 damage and does mortal wounds on wound rolls of 6. So that means I guess you can do 2 damage on wound rolls of 6 if you are also using the Warp Storm ability, which is kind of sweet. And then that is with a big sword guy. So the Tzeentch Demon Prince gets 2 casts. So he's a 2-cast, 1 deny psyker. And he knows 2 spells. And both of them do that. And then they both have 3 damage melee attacks, and the Hellforged, the Warpfire Blade goes to 4 damage and does mortal wounds on top. The other guy's Impossible Robe, so he's like super tough to kill. All right, that's sweet. And then we have a Fate Scammer with Retinue, so he's got +1 to cast. And he's got all of the... he's got all the offensive power, so Bolt of Change, Infernal Gateway. And we're going to use the Tzeentch ability to give him an additional +1 as well, so he can go to +2 to cast. He needs, a 6 to get Infernal Gateway off, and that's pretty reliable at that point. 2 units of blues and a pink horror unit. Alongside 3 Exalted Flamers, 3 units of 5 Flamers, 2 units of Screamers, 1 of 3 and 1 of 6. These guys are largely to score Reality Rebels, and 3 Burning Chariots. The core of this style of list is always pretty similar. You always see the triple Burning Chariot, triple Exalted Flamer because they give you the 18-inch range guns, and then usually you're on 3 Flamers. Whether they're big or little units of Flamers is kind of up to personal preference, I think. These Demon Princes are really cool, though. I really like this list, actually. They don't have any way to reroll. They only give they have themselves a reroll 1's aura, but it only works on other demons. But I guess that is a downside of playing Tzeentch, unless you take Be'lakor. But that's always, you don't really want to take Be'lakor usually. He's very expensive. He cuts into the number of shots you can have, whereas the 2 Demon Princes, you get 2 sets of reroll 1's auras. I don't know if they work on anything besides the Flamers and the Pinks, though. Do the Chariots have core? I would be shocked. No. Yeah, so it's just the Flamers and the Pinks that get the reroll ones. Realistically. I guess the Screamers do, right? The Screamers also, which is good because their weapon skill sucks. Which is kind of funny as a melee unit, but, you know, all the help you can give them is pretty solid. Yeah, chat, that was the joke, is that Kairos knows all the spells. Doesn't matter what spells Kairos knows, he's just gonna Perils every time he tries to cast one and explode. Is this like... what? I don't know if Kairos is any more susceptible to explosive to Perilsing than anyone else. Fortunately, he has a billion wounds, so even if he miscasts, it's not that big of a deal. So another one, 5-1 here, another Solar Watch list, and this one does have the full Wombo combo that we discussed earlier, chat. So it's a unit of 10 Custodian Wardens and a unit of 6 Custodian Wardens, plus a Leia, excuse me, and a unit of Witch Seekers and a Rhino. So as people told me previously, the combo is that you put the Witch Seekers in the Rhino. They confer their pregame move to any transport they're embarked in. So you also embark a Leia. So in the first turn, your Rhino's pregame moves, it makes a normal move. Then you disembark a Leia and advance her. Then you use the teleport Homer strat to port the Wardens from where they are in your deployment zone to her location. So you can push them like 20 inches up the table. We finally did it, chat. The Kairos Warlord trait is to not suffer perils. Last week you watched the Demons list. Perils every turn. Kairos casts something. Okay. It's very unlikely. That's the problem with Demon Warlord traits. Is like if you're like every demon army has like you can only get one Warlord trait, and it's always gonna be whatever's on the Bloodthirster. Like the Khorne Warlord traits are just so much better than anyone else's that you're never gonna take the ones that aren't just whatever the one the Bloodthirster has. Like whether it's like ignore damage modifier or ignore damage modifiers or 5-up damage ignore or all that stuff is like really good. You're just probably never gonna take any of the other ones, which is very sad. I guess you could also take the there's the -1 to be hit one, right? For Tzeentch, that one's also good. For a Lord of Change specifically. But Kairos doesn't get that one, so Kairos, get wrecked, Kairos. Not suffering perils is like not that great of a Warlord trait. But really, they should have had like at least give them a 1-use extra Warlord trait strat. It's weird that they don't, because their stratagems generally suck. But whatever. I think it ends up being fine. Turns out demons are like really good anyway, so they don't really need the help. We got a Leagues of Votan here. Kevin Heddle playing some Ymir Conglomerate. This one is running a Grimnir. So we have a Forge Master, High Call, and the Grimnir with the Talking Stick. 2 units of Chthonian Berserks, a 7 of Hearthguard. So this person's clearly on the 7 model unit. 3 Hernkin Pioneers and 2 Hecaton Land Fortresses with Magna Rails. That's so interesting. So somebody's going to tell me, chat, about the use of the Magna Rail cannon with Ymir Conglomerate, because it feels like that's a real Greater Thurian League energy. And I guess, like, if you really want to ignore invulnerable saves, right? You're just like, man, you know what I hate? It's freaking invulnerable saves. But it feels to me like getting the beam stratagem for playing Ymir would incentivize you to take at least 1 land fortress with the beamer gun. And I've seen that beamer gun do insane work. Doing a mortal wound for every hit that you succeed and then, like, doubling your hits is, like, really good for the beam weapon. For the heavy conversion beamer. And you don't have support to, like, auto split the rail cannon in Ymir Conglomerate, so it doesn't feel as good as it would be in Greater Thurian League. But maybe just the ignore invulnerable saves is good enough. I don't know. I'm not a Votan player, so I can't say for sure. But that is how it feels to me. Otherwise, this is mostly normal Votan stuff. Beam with Mortals does more damage on average, even versus a 4+ than the Magna Rail. Yeah, so like it feels like you would take at least 1, right? Like I feel like that's like a no-brainer. I mean, I understand taking 1 Magna Rail because you're like, well, if I need to shoot somebody who's got an invulnerable save, you might as well have the gun. But to not take the beamer at all, just leaving money on the table. Maybe you just don't have enough CP to use the beamer strat, because that is like assuming that you have shot a command point, right? You have used the command point, so you're in for some. It's not 0 cost to activate the mortal wound strat, but it does feel like a pretty good use of a CP. All right, we got some more space wolves happening over here. Oh my god, what is this list? What have I clicked on? Tristan Whitehead, calm down, my guy. Oh my god. Bjorn the Fell-Handed, Njal the Stormcaller, a lieutenant. Is this the cool? It's the cool Space Wolf lieutenant with the axe. I made a whole video about this guy. He's so sick. He's got a 2 damage 2 shotgun and a 2 damage melee weapon. He's the best one. Plus Ragnar Blackmane, 3 special characters, 2 units of Incursors, Infiltrator Squad, Intercessor Squad, an Aggressor Squad, and 2 units of Hounds of Mordecai. 2 Wolfen Dreadnoughts, man after my own heart over here. A unit of 7 Wolfen, a brick of Thunderwolf Cavalry, and a Repulsor. Who are we putting in this Repulsor, chat? Is it the Aggressors? It's 5 Aggressors. Does that fit into a Repulsor? Do they count as 2 in a Repulsor? Is that how it works? Oh, the Forge Master makes his strat free on the Hecaton? Yeah, that seems like a no-brainer then. Oh, that's like once per game, right? There is a cost, but yeah. That seems like a windmill slam. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. What am I looking at? Repulsor. Repulsor holds. Yeah, Gravis models take up the space of 2 and it carries 10. Yeah, so we're for sure putting the Aggressor Squad in there, because they are Flamer Aggressors. And then the Hounds of Mordecai are an interesting include. They were much better, I think, in... we saw them actually like become real meta for a hot minute when we were in the meta where like it was all Eldar and Tyranids. And so Psychic Defense was like an all-time... It was the most valuable that it's ever been. Less so now. They are costed very aggressively. 17 points a model for a Primaris body is pretty good. They have a combat knife, so they get extra attack. So they're 3 attacks each, 4 on the charge, exploding 6s in Assault Doctrine. And then they give -1 to cast within 18, -2 to cast within 6, and they ignore mortal wounds on a 4. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, they ignore mortal wounds on a 4. And they can't be selectively targeted for stuff unless they're the closest, which is not that useful. Usually you're blocking mortals, but you use them to block mortals on your important stuff because they're really, really low points per wound, and their wounds are like basically, you know, they're like more efficient than guardsmen. Yeah, they're more. I think they're the most efficient points per wound against psychic powers, out of anything in the game, right? Maybe like Ripper Swarms are like. Because they're basically 4 wounds against psychic powers. They're the equivalent of 4 wounds mathematically, which means that they're 4.25 points per wound. So yeah, it'd be like Ripper Swarms, I guess. I'm sure there's like some weird swarm, like Scarabs. I guess Scarab Swarms are better, but they are up there with Scarab Swarms when being smited at in terms of survivability. Plus they get +1 to attack and damage against psychers. So if you're trying to beat like Chaos Demons and stuff, like these guys just stab Lords of Change to death. Yeah, I mean, Hans and Mordecai are sweet. They're sweet anti-psyker technology. I don't know if you would play them too often. Like the weird part is that they don't have forward deploy. I think this unit would be really, really, really good if they infiltrated. I mean, they would be like borderline broken. They'd have to be 20 points model probably, because they would just be better than Incursors then. But the fact that they don't forward deploy and you want to use them to protect your army from psychic powers, but they're not any faster than the army is a little bit unfortunate. I guess what you could do, right, is you could start them in the repulsor and then disembark them on the top of one, and then use that additional movement to get them ahead of the rest of the army so that they actually block mortal wounds, and then you embark the aggressors on the first turn, and then go do your thing. I wonder if that is the technology that we are using. You can do that, right? You can embark and disembark in the same turn. I'm now like second guessing myself. Me as a dirty Tyranid player who never uses transport units. I think it's that a unit can't disembark and embark at the same time, right? But a transport can be both disembarked and from and embarked into on the same turn. I believe that that's how it works. Yeah, a single unit can't embark and disembark in the same turn, or in the same phase. But the transport can embark passengers and then disembark them, or disembark passengers and then embark new passengers. Yes. Scarabs are 4 wounds for 15. Yeah, so it's Scarabs and Ripper Swarms, right? Are the more efficient than Huns and Mordecai. But that's like it, right? And if you're a Space Marine player, you're like psyched that you have a unit that doesn't just fucking die to mortal wounds. Hans and Mordecai are sweet, actually. I think they're legitimately good. It's just tough to fit them. They're also like Space Wolf keyworded, not like chapter keyworded, so that you have to take specifically Space Wolves and not just any faction. This list is cool. Now, this was a GW event, I believe, so I think it's a little bit loosier-goosier. And it's also the same weekend as Southampton GT.
Sorry for playing guard against you last weekend.
Ill-tempered Fireblade, this is the super chat, man. Well, it's $20, certainly makes it lessens the sting a little bit. Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you showing me what Armored Sentinels did, because I was unaware of their brace of keywords, but now I know. And I know I don't know, like, that doesn't, I don't know if I can sort of operate on that knowledge, but now it's in my brain, so that's good. And now I hope to dodge them even more so than I was already. Yeah, I mean, that list was cool. I appreciate that you played. So that just for a little bit of background for the folks in chat. Ill-Tempered Fireblade and I played on Saturday in an RTT, and he was playing a real infantry spam style of Ashram Militarum. So there were no mortar teams, there were no Lieben Russ. It was all infantry and cavalry, which is pretty cool. So it was a little bit different. There was a bunch of Ogren, there was a bunch of Rough Riders, and that was all pretty sweet. The double command squads, the command squad with the big with the Ogren bodyguard to be like sort of invincible. And if it weren't for Kazakh teams being super sweet, I think it would have been an interesting game. But unfortunately, Kazakh teams and Kazakh team things, and I got blown up. So anyway, good old Ashram Militarum being good. Yeah. So we're looking at Genestealer Cults now. Some Twisted Helix action. Plus one strength and movement. Let's go. We have a Magus and a Patriarch. Cool. A big brick of Acolytes with 6 rock drills. Okay. A bunch of more Acolytes. 1, 2, 3 units alongside 2 units of 10 Neophytes with cannons and Webbers. 2 units of Aberrants. Oh my god. Okay. That's interesting. A Keller Morph. No upgrades in the Keller Morph. No Wormtooth rounds, which is interesting. 8 Pure Strain Genestealers, not 10. And 2 Goliath Rock Grinders. This is a little bit of a different list. Usually, especially Twisted Helix is usually more all in on the Pure Strain Genestealer boat. Usually you're like triple Pure Strain Genestealers. But I guess what we're doing is we're like trying to deliver aberrants. Like that's the gimmick. Which, like, more power to you, man. But man, holy crap, are aberrants like not a particularly exciting data sheet. Cool model, but oh boy, are they tough. Some Goth Orcs. This one, it's kind of similar to the list we just looked at. This one is double truck and a battle wagon instead of the other transport. So instead of running kill rigs, we're running trucks, basically. But that's kind of normal Orcs. Mikey Herbert from Hellstorm Wargaming with the big 5-0 with Iron Hands. I know he's got his Iron Hands all painted up as like Blood Ravens from Dawn of War, and they look sweet. Go follow him on Twitter, which is, I'm going to give him a shout out here because I follow him on Twitter and I really like his posts. He is Hellstorm_Mikey. Here we go. I'll just drop him in the chat for everybody. But he posted pictures of his games. It looked a little interesting. They actually used, it was cool to see photos of the GW events, the Warhammer World events. There he is with his trophy. Because it looks like they use like sort of USO layouts. Pretty similar. This is like USO. This is basically just USO number 3, I think. With the Cardinal Point ruins and then the 2 line of sight blockers on the sides, 2 forests, and then a light cover in the middle. But it's interesting that it looks like there was like a, I don't know. I guess I wasn't entirely aware whether or not the USO layouts are being used more widely than just on the USO event circuit, and it looks like they are, or at least similar layouts. So, I mean, if you're going to a GW event, get ready for that. This is an unfortunate ruin, though. Do I have my telestrator on? I don't. Professional AF. This is an unfortunate ruin though because it doesn't really have great line of sight blocking. If you can move into this ruin, you can basically see into it, and that sucks a little bit. You only get this like corner basically to actually hide behind, and especially because it's like a short table edge deployment, you can hide like here maybe, and you can hide like here maybe, and you can hide back here, and that's kind of it. And that's not amazing line of sight blocking, but it is what it is. I think layout 3 is the weakest of all the USO layouts. It's just like. Just doesn't really work for almost any deployment. I think that like Data Scry is the best one, maybe, where your deployment zone's like this. These theoretically should be a little bit farther forward. But then you can drop behind this thing and you can drop behind this thing, you can drop behind this thing. And those are, like, that's solid line of sight blocking. But that's, like, the only mission. Maybe the corner deployment missions are the ones that, like, I actually really like on that layout. Otherwise, the layout's kind of bad. Interesting. But congratulations to old Mikey over there for taking it down. The big 5-0. What a guy. Yeah, he is the king of clickbait for sure. Every time I'm making a thumbnail, I'm like, is this thumbnail clickbaity? I'm like, what would Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming do? And I was like, he would make it more clickbaity probably. So I think I'm in the clear. So I appreciate that he sets the bar for clickbait titles for the rest of the content creator community. All right. So this also, we got the Fushini Splash hanging in this one too. Whirlwind of Rage, so we get the double explosions on these guys. 2 units of Scout Squads, Relic and Tempter, 2 Infiltrators. We basically looked at this list already. 2 Landspeeder Tornadoes, 2 Landspeeder Storms. Yeah, it's the list we looked at already. This one has a Desolation Squad in there, though. Hell yeah. 4 Super Cracks, and a Venger Launcher, which is, I believe, the 2 damage indirect fire. Are they in Wikipedia yet? They are, right? I think they just made an announcement that they are, like, yesterday. Let's find out together. They are. Woo! Yeah, so it's AP1 2 damage, a D6 shot, and then they have 5 Castellan launchers. So if you're a 10 model like Kazarkan team, first of all, you don't get great use out of a transhuman physiology because it's only -1 to wound. I guess it's -2 on the Avenger launcher, so you probably use it anyway. But it's all AP2. The guy Signums himself. And then, is it the dude who has the targeter optics? Yeah. So he goes to 2+ ballistic skill, goes back to 3 with the indirect fire penalty, and then gets +1 for the targeting. So everybody else is weapon skill 4, but he can hit on 2s. Rerolling 1s because we're Iron Hands. And then you also can get like a floating reroll, like a target protocols reroll on the unit too. And potentially even reroll 1s to wound if you Wisdom of the Ancients, the Relic Contemptor. If you go all in on it. And then the Castellan launcher is all blast, so they fire 15 shots, and the Venger launcher fires an average of like 4. So it's like 19 shots into like a Kazarkan team on the top of the first turn. So if you go first against, and even if you go second, because these guys are probably in cover and behind line of sight against what's the word? Mortar teams. Excuse me, shit. They go to a 1-up save. Mortar teams probably don't even like do any damage to them. And then they just pick up either like a mortar team or the entire Kazarkan brick. And they're probably like the matchup buster for Space Marines into Astra Militarum, which is super important. So despite the fact that everyone's kind of crapping on Desolation Squads for looking silly and being kind of whatever, I think that you still actually have to include them because they're so good into Astra Militarum specifically. And then obviously like once the Lehman Russ get feisty, you just vaporize one of them with the crack missiles on top of that. So they're still really solid. Do you also need line of sight to Auspex scan? You don't. So you can also like screen with them. If we're in like a situation where you have like a forward ruin and you can put the Desolation Squad out in front of the ruin such that it can't be Barbican's key onto, like they can't drop into it. If you're thinking like a USO layout, they have like a little U usually in your deployment zone, and you put them at the front of the U, they actually basically screen the Barbican's key unit 12 inches. They act as like another infiltrator squad, because if the Barbican's key unit drops into them, if you're in a format that allows you to Auspex scan the Barbican's key, which is a contentious issue, then you just get to shoot them with almost exactly the same level of damage output we just talked about. It's a little bit worse, because the Signum doesn't trigger because it's not your shooting phase. So the Venger launcher guy is -1 to hit, but otherwise it's the same. That's pretty cool. Good old Desolation Squad. Ogrins can Shield of Flesh you? I guess so. If you're playing Ogrin, which most people are not. So I don't know if that will come into play too much. All right. Moving on to... We got Harlequins, the other 5-0 here. We got Twilight, so the Shock Assault sub-faction. The big old... The Fang Master, I guess. The Twilight Fang Troop Master. Foot in the future for the big charges, and then he gets a million attacks with the Twilight Fang once it gets to late game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 troop units. With matching Star Weavers, 2 Death Jesters, 1's Rift Ghoul, 1 has Favor of Shegarak and Harvester, so his 6 is triple, and then Favor of Shegarak lets you auto 6 your hit rolls, so you can get those 6s. And then 2 Sky Weavers for secondaries and stuff, and a Solitaire. This is a pretty normal Harlequins list. And I think that Harlequins tend to win these events a lot. I don't know if there's like one guy who just lives next to the Nottingham at like location and just always plays Harlequins there, but I remember there being a lot of Harlequin winners of these official GW events. Auspex scanning the Barbican's key seems odd since it's not reinforcements. Yeah, that's why it's like contentious. So any repositional effect that lets you pick up off the table and then set yourself back up on the table considers you to be in reinforcements. Which means, so as long as you Auspex scan after the Barbican's key has resolved, you can shoot that unit. There's no issue there. They are considered to be a reinforcements unit basically until the end of the phase. The issue is that the Barbican's key is not locked in its timing, which means that you can resolve it. The rules as written, no commentary from me. The rules as written are that you can resolve the Barbican's key simultaneous with the Auspex scan, and you can force the Auspex scan to resolve before the Barbican's key sets the unit up, but before the Barbican's key does anything, because as the active player during your own movement phase, you choose the order in which simultaneous effects are resolved. So you go to end of movement, say, I'm going to Barbican's key. Would you like to Auspex scan? Your opponent goes, I would like to Auspex scan. You go, okay, cool, Auspex scan. And they're like, oh, I have no eligible targets. You're like, okay. So the Auspex scan does nothing, and then I set my Barbican's key unit up. That's very contentious. And while that is rules as written, it is likely not rules as intended. So most places either specify that Auspex scan just works like as you would assume it does, where it happens after all your reinforcement stuff happens, or that the timing of the Barbican's key is different. The way that I ruled it for T5S2 events is because this was like a whole hullabaloo. I thought it would get fixed when the Astra Militarum FAQ came down, and then it didn't, so we just did it ourselves. Is that any repositional style effects that happen in the movement phase that the timing of which is not specified have to happen in the reinforcement step. So, yeah, which is mostly how people played it anyway, but that also affects Veilbreaker Plate, that also affects Veil of Darkness. It weirdly doesn't affect some other ones, like Umbralific Crystal happens in the reinforcement step, but I don't know. It's like they just like they like throw a dart at a dartboard when your deep strikes happen. They're like, it's whatever. It's beginning of movement, end of movement, pick up at beginning, place in reinforcements, end of movement but not reinforcement step. Like, who knows? Anytime during movement, at the end of your turn, then in your reinforcement step, you're just like, why can't we make up our mind? I don't know, because we're bad at templating. Everything that resets up on the table count, like the Thousand Suns crystal thing, counts as reinforcements. Yep, That's in the rare rules section, in the appendix. You are considered to be a reinforcements unit if you are set back up on the battlefield. The operative term is set back up on the battlefield. Which also means, hilariously, units like Gilliman, who is removed from the table, and then when he respawns, he's set back up. He is counted as a reinforcement, which is funny. They're adding variants to the rules. Yeah. Not only do you get to roll dice to determine the outcome of the game, but you also get the outcome of the game gets determined randomly by whichever version of rules you're currently using. Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's I don't know. I don't know. It just makes me mad. It's unfortunate. There's like no good way to go about it. If you however you roll that interaction, it busts something in the game. And it's always kind of a feel bad because then it's like suddenly a house rule that everyone plays slightly differently. It just sucks. I mean, it's one of those like existential problems. It's like the Necron. That's another reinforcement ability. It's like the Necron reinforcement ability that I made a video about like years and years ago, probably 2 years ago. Dimensional Breach, I think, or Dimensional Corridor, where you pick a Necron unit up off the table and then set it up next to your monolith. If you don't have a monolith, there's no legal resolution to the event, to the stratagem. So like, what do? I don't know. The game just blue screens, and it's kind of the same way. There is like a rules as written way to resolve it, but that it's like very stupid. What is my day job? Well, chat, at the stage that we're currently at, this is my day job. I don't know if it's like I don't know. There wasn't like a transition of power because I'm self-employed otherwise, and I've basically just slowly been doing more content creation stuff rather than taking up other projects. So yeah, mostly this. Which is why, which explains, help explain to you hopefully how I can remember dumb rules. And to be fair, my memory when it comes to rules isn't that great. I forget more stuff than I'm really comfortable with, to be honest. But it's because I don't do anything else for the most part. That's just why I can remember stupid 40k stuff. All right, let's move on. Another Adeptus Custodes list. Let's go. So this one's interesting. I don't know if this was a full 2,000 point tournament. It's called Level Up. This one is 20 Custodian Warden, so it must be right. So it's 1,000 points plus 120, 2,300, 2,500, 2,700. Is this 2,750? Guess we can look at the other lists. No, it's 2,000. Okay. Maybe I just did my math. Oh, there's an Alea in there. So this one has Alea, but not the Rhino again. Interesting. So it's 20 Wardens, the double Vexillos. We've talked about this list before. 23 Wardens, in fact. Let's go. All in. The maximum allotment of Warden units. So Alaris Custodians, a unit of 3 and a unit of 1. 2 units of 10 and a unit of 3 Custodian Wardens. 2 Vexillus Praetors, one with an Imperius for +1 attack, one with a Magnifica for -1 to be hit. And then Sally Forth, which is, I believe, that's the advance in charge, right? And then Alea and Trajan. Okay, Trajan's up the top. I almost missed him. Trajan's up. He's hanging out up at the top up there. I mean, I guess Alea's like, she is faster than the Wardens, so she can teleport the Wardens to her, but it does feel a little bit, I don't know. She's just a solid character, I guess. Good stuff. Oh, we did open this Black Templars list. We'll take a look at that. We got Helbrecht, a Chaplain, and Grimaldus. 2 Infiltrator squads, a Primaris Crusader squad. Just a bunch of power fists in that. All right, all in. We're going fist in, boys. A Sword Brethren squad with Holy Orb, so the fight lasts on a stick. Another Sword Brethren squad with all the different weapons. So one guy has a Champion of the Feast and Sword of Judgment, so a 3 damage power sword. But no Apothecary for that guy, so these guys are just punching people. We do have Impulsors, so we're probably combat squatting them. Yeah, we have to be. Unless we're putting Infiltrators in the Impulsors, which does feel unlikely. There's an Assault Squad, the triple Impulsors. So these have multi-meltas. So this is the big benefit of Black Templars, is that they get free multi-meltas in other vehicles. And we've talked about that in a past video too, is because they have an upgrade spree that has a multi-melt on it, so they have to be able to include it. So Gladiator Reapers operate at 24 inches for the most part, so multi-meltas are useful, and then the Impulsors are super duper good in Black Templars. It used to be that they were also good because you can disembark and then devout push into melee, but nobody does that anymore because you can't do it. They made it so you couldn't devout push if you weren't already engaged, which sucks. It does let you move up the table pretty fast, but if you don't really need the movement, then it's not that useful. But the Impulsors are still good. I mean, they're kind of tough to kill for their points value. They do 1 billion damage. The missiles, I think, are a double crack missile profile. Plus a multi-melta, so you have like 4 d6 damage weapons on top of that thing. I'll just verify that real quick. And then plus they also have a bunch of Stormbolters on them. They're good for scoring secondaries. You can score like Oaths of Moment with that unit in the middle. Like transports are just generally good at scoring Space Marine secondaries. Impulsors. Yes. Okay. So it's one crack missile shot, not 2 shot. I apologize, but they do have an Icarus profile that's D3. That's just an Icarus launcher. So they have 3 D6 damage gunshots off of each Impulsor, which is pretty solid for 100 points. And they transport a bunch of Sword Brethren. They're really scary. This is a cool list. I think Black Templars have really like sort of opened up with a lot of really interesting builds recently. my boss does find me invaluable. That's true, chat. What would I do without myself? None of my businesses could run, chat, if I wasn't here. They would just fall apart. Yeah, that's why I pay myself the big bucks, all right? Okay, we got a BFS 2-day competitive. Got some Genestealer Cults here. Ooh, a new sub-faction. Oh, we got so many sub-faction abilities we have to look up. Oh, this one has aberrants too? 8 aberrants? Chat, what is happening these days? All right, so I don't know what Impassioned does. We're going to have to look that one up. They get +1 hit on the charge. Oh, that's pretty okay. The aberrant melee weapons, I believe, impose hit penalties on them, which certainly, so that certainly helps that. Plus, you get +1 to hit for like all your Pierce Range Genestealers, so they go to 2s. And then we're running Industrial Affinity, so I guess you don't suffer hit penalties for industrial weapons, and then you also get +1 to hit on top of that. Unfortunately, I don't believe that none of the aberrant weapons count as industrial, but the rock drills do, so these guys will hit on 2s, as far as I know. So that's pretty solid. It's actually like really strong offense there. Just like the entire army hitting on 2s and melee is really solid. Looks like a bunch of Immaculate Hybrids, 2 big units with rock drills and cutters. 2 units of Neophyte Hybrids, an 8er of Aberrants, and a unit of 10 Metamorphs, alongside 2 units of Pure Train Genestealers, one of them with a pregame move. But no transport for them, so the second unit's just ground pounding. They're just running up the table. They can use the rapid advance, the advance and charge, and a 6-inch auto advance strap. Which does help them. They don't necessarily need the transport, but the transport certainly helps. And it helps them to not get just like alpha'd out before they get to do anything by indirect fire or by forward deploys or something like that. or redeploys. The forward deploys can't actually do anything to Genestealer Cults. And I think that's honestly one of the reasons the Genestealer Cult's so powerful right now is because they set up their stuff at the end of their movement phase, the end of the opponent's first movement phase. They can't be alpha struck, not efficiently anyway. You can have it in a situation where you can't physically hide your army away from like turn 1 deep strikers, but you already know where people's drop pods and stuff are going by the time that you go to set your army up. And because there's basically no double moves in the game anymore that allow you to charge afterwards, the downside previously is because your blip counters prevent enemies from coming within 9. If you have forward deploys, they can't actually move on the first turn closer to your blips, and then the blips can just deploy out of charge range, and there's no way to get any closer. So if you like forward deploy striking scorpions or some like melee infiltrator into the middle of the table, the Genestealer Cult player like literally doesn't care about that stuff, which actually I think is super useful in the meta right now. Got some Chaos Demons here. Ooh, this is a spicy list too. A Transweaver, Bellicor, a Bloodthirster, Lord of Change, and Shalaxi. Oh, I love this list! So we got 9 Screamers, 3 of 3 in Fast Attack. In fact, Fast Attack is our compulsory slot. Okay. A unit of 3 Flamers, 2 units of 3 Nurglings, just for screening, I guess. Oh, excuse me. Okay, yeah. A unit of 10 Demonettes. Bellicor. He's got Shrouded Step, which really only affects the one little Flamer unit, but it is what it is. Bloodthirster with Argath, King of Blades. A Lord of Change. He's got Incorporeal Form and Impossible Robe. And Shalaxi Hellbane. So the 4 big Greater Demons, plus a little caster to do support, to do psychic actions. And just a bunch of little idiots running around to get Reality Rebels. I love this list. This list is classy as hell. Probably highly variant, just wide variance there. But I mean, as long as you can like pull focus with Shalaxi Hellbane so that Bellicor doesn't get like tuned up before he drops the Bloodthirster in your opponent's face, then you're probably feeling pretty good. And as long as you can get like 2 to 3 of these guys to connect, yeah, you probably kill their army. Oliver Pickett with a World Eaters list here. 2 Masters of Executions. Interesting. It's weird. It's interesting that the World Eaters MOE is in HQ so that they don't compete with 8-bound. That feels very deliberate. I did not know that. Because the CSM execution guy's in Elites, right? He sure is, yeah. Huh. I see what you're going for there, GW. Trying to make us play more 8-bound. I get it. 3 units of Corn Berserkers, 3 units of 8-bound, 3 units of Exalted 8-bound, 3 units of Chaos Spawn, and 3 War Dog Stalkers. We're all in on the Stalkers today. 1 with Mirror of Fates, and 2 with just nothing, just chain cannons. So again, adding some shooting to the army. The Zinj in a World Eaters list is always feels a little bit discordant to me, but or discordant. But you know, it is what it is. That is how Chaos Soup typically works. A bunch of Astra Militarum in this last GT here, the Mighty Meeple GT. We're gonna skip them. Jake Miller and Jeremy Knox play more interesting factions next time. And we'll talk about Kyle Treya. More Chaos Demons. So the interesting thing about Chaos Demons is that every list is different. We've looked at like 4 or 5 Chaos Demons lists today, right? And every single one of them has been wildly divergent from one another. Whereas like Astra Militarum, Dark Angels, you're all the same. You're all the same list. So a Bloodthirster, a Lord of Change with Architect of Deception. So that's the -1 to be hit, if I remember correctly. Plus Incorporeal Form and Impossible Robe, yeah. So he's -1 to be hit, -1 to be wounded, and zeroes out 1 failed save every turn. So that is the Lord of Change that is almost literally impossible to kill outside mortal wounds. It's so difficult. I believe the Architect of Deception only works on ranged attacks. So the -1 to wound still affects everything, but the hit roll is only against guns. So if you hit them with strength 8 plus weapons, like you can eventually get there in melee, but it takes so long that it's might be not even worth it. An Argath King of Blades Bloodthirster. and a Transweaver, 2 units of Demonettes, some Bloodletters, a Nurgling Swarm, a Pink Horror unit, 2 units of Fiends, 2 units of Flamers, 3 units of Fleshhounds. So just a bunch of little units running around. The kind of normal stuff, I think. Normal Chaos Demons fare for this one for the most part. And that's the last list, chat. We did it! It's Lord Disconcordant. Jeremy Knox is a legend? Well, he'd be more legendary if he didn't play Astra Militarum, chat. That's all I have to say about that. You know? I'm sorry. I'm just telling it like it is. Some people may be the sweetest people on Earth, but they get that little black mark on their resume for registering Astra Militarum. So, you know, I'm sorry. Anyway, chat, I think that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to take a quick look at my video editor. See here. Chats. It finished exporting my hour-long Tyranid video. So if you stick around to the channel for a little bit, that'll take a little while to upload and go through YouTube's checks. Probably be up in an hour or so, I would imagine, maybe 30 minutes if we're lucky. Then you will be you will be treated to a sweet video where I talk about Tyranids for way too long. So I hope you go check that one out. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out with me this Tactical Tuesday. I apologize for being late today, but again, I was having trouble getting this video out. I was hoping I would have it out before the live stream, but I didn't, and I am committed to live streaming for you guys. So that's why we're here. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me. And I'll be live for probably most of the rest of the week over on the Twitchies. I don't think that I will be live next week with Tactical Tuesday, however, because it is Adepticon week. I have a bunch of stuff to get ready for Adepticon, so and I may even be traveling on that day. So, or at least I'll be leaving immediately after, basically, to get over to the to Chicago. So, if you're at Adepticon, come hang out with me. I'm not streaming or anything, but I will be at the Breachstorm booth, which I think should be in the main foyer in front of the near the registration desk. Come hang out with me over there. You can get a demo of my sweet game. That's super cool. So yeah, please come chill with me, and otherwise, I will most likely see you in 2 weeks. But if you follow me on Twitch, which you obviously should, I'll probably be live for the rest of the week, and probably on Monday as well. Whoa. All right, chats. That's going to be it for me, and I am done now. So thank everyone for watching. Keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming, and